Welcome back to Shat on TV, Game of Thrones edition, the unofficial podcast companion piece to the hit juggernaut HBO series Game of Thrones. I'm one of your hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Jormont Lyons.
You are my weakness.
And this is our Instacast episode where we share our quick takes on this week's episode of Game of Thrones. This week's episode was entitled Stormborn, in which Daenerys receives an unexpected visitor, Jon faces a revolt, Sam's risk career and lives, and Tyrion plans the conquest of Westeros. Guys, this is the immediate reaction podcast just for our first-time listeners. So we have done very little research. It's literally 15 minutes after we watched the episode. What was your immediate take, and what things will we be talking about this week on our deep dive and in our fan email episode?
I think the big thing for me was, we had episode 1 set up a ton of questions. Episode 2 did a great job of answering a lot of those. We were wondering, how will they attack from Dragonstone? We got answers to that. We got, how do the Lannisters plan on winning? We got answers to that. And several other questions that we had running through our minds. They, in quick order, they just answered them, plus a lot of action. I thought this was a great episode.
Yeah, I agree. I think it might be one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. I thought it was emotional. It did a great job to tie a lot of callbacks, even back to season 1. It really seemed to be the culmination. We said last week was a bit slow, and it was the start of something. You could see it picking up speed. I loved it. I want to turn around and watch it again. But the emotional component was what really struck me.
Is it interesting to you that the producers are taking a very deliberate turn in season 7 towards the finish line? Like, they're wrapping up everything. There's not one episode yet thus far where they're not tying a loose end. I think if we reach the finish line with a satisfying conclusion and all these loose ends figured out, why would they even do a spin-off series? This would be perfection.
Well, one of the things I found very interesting is every time I think a new character is being introduced in season 7, I realize that no, this guy has been here since season 1. One of the things I was talking about was with Randall Tarley. He's I'm like, oh, I don't remember this guy, like new character, and I started typing in like new character alert. Here's a new guy we got to watch. No, the Tarleys have been involved in this storyline from season 1, and it's just a wonderful way that like Big D said, that they're introducing fresh action and fresh character development into the show with characters that we've seen in the past, which is an amazing. How many other shows can do this over 7-year span? That's incredible.
What really I liked, besides the emotional component that I'll get into a bit, was finally characters have learned the entire first part of the planning in the war room in Dragonstone. Every lesson was learned. People have come about. All the journey to get here was actually fruitful. It paid off. Melisandre, she admits prophecies are tricky. She doesn't have it all figured out. Varys is honest. He looks her in the face and does not play his normal role of the whisperer in the background. He's going to be honest. And Daenerys, she forgives Varys, something she never would have done 2 seasons ago. You look at what she did to Jorah. She sent him off because he lied. She even forgives Melisandre. And Tyrion, he is going out on a limb for her, and he says, do you want to be the Queen of Ashes? And she takes his advice, and she uses that line later in the episode when she's trying to rally the troops. So nice to see people are learning and not bound to make the same mistakes.
I think one gorgeous example of this is that you see, one of the things I was really looking forward to this season was Nymeria, the direwolf coming back into play. And I thought my dream is coming through. We see Nymeria and Arya meeting in the forest, and I thought, oh, this is the reunion. But no, again, lessons learned. Arya says, that's not you, coming back with her, going back to Winterfell. And so this is a heartbreaking parallel. She understands that as she has taken her path away from being the princess that her father saw her as, Nymeria has taken her own path, right? Found her own freedom in her own pack. And taken her own journey through life. Again, it was just this reintroduction of a character, lesson learned, totally the theme of the episode.
Well, Gene and I talked about this on the Small Council, the Red Keep Diaries that we do every Thursday, about how I definitely didn't want to see another goddamn direwolf die, and one of them might be Nymeria. Okay, so it looks like Nymeria is safe, right? If this is the end of Nymeria's story, we're good, right? But in the same fucking episode, Game of Thrones, in the same one, you take us down to the basement, Queen Cersei, and she's got down there some blacksmiths that are making this dragon killer. What is this about, and should I be scared?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they would come up with a solution that was a little more eloquent than a giant crossbow, but we're seeing it, and this is how the Lannisters, plan to stop dragons with firepower. Again, one of the things to think about though in this world, if you see it as a parallel to the real world, is that technology has always brought about a shift in military tactic, right? Game changers, and so I think that this crossbow, dragons were the game changer. That your armies and everything are worthless against these dragons. Now you have technology that can take them out. It's a little daunting.
Yeah, but they explain it. Qyburn has done the research. He has the story and has the knowledge that the dragons were injured and potentially could be killed when they were at the fighting pits of Meereen. So it's now logical that they're going to develop a weapon that they could take them down. So I think it's completely plausible. Weapons of the time were primarily siege weapons. You're not going to get a trebuchet, and you're not going to get any kind of a catapult to hit them. So the crossbow makes logical sense. I just hope they're making more than one of them.
Well, one thing that I really like that this episode has done, and again, I think it's shown the rapid speed that the showrunners want to take this season, is that we're not waiting episodes for all these houses to get together. By episode 2 of season 7, everyone's in the fucking throne rooms. They're planning out their sieges, their attacks. There's none of this, The Hobbit, let's stretch this out across 3 movies, right?
And what's really amazing about that is, you talk about that planning stage. In Dragonstone, you've got the members from Dorne, you got the Tyrells, Dany's there, Varys is there, you've got Tyrion there, and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like it doesn't make sense. When they're all in the room together, no part of me said, what's going on here? It was like, yes, this feels natural. This feels like a logical progression of the battle plan. And so for me, again, that's a very hard thing to pull off. On any lesser show, I'd be like, how the fuck did everybody get here and why are they here?
Yeah, and when's the last time that you saw 4 powerful women sitting around essentially a war room table and planning out tactics? If these were old guys, we wouldn't question it. And I thought the women were powerful. It was great. They questioned Daenerys' strategy. They said, so you want us to fight? And it was logical that you would want Westerosi forces to lay siege to King's Landing, so they're not playing into that fear-mongering that Jaime and Cersei are doing with all the lords. And they push back and forth, very real, genuine, and it was nice to see that the women are as capable as the guys.
Not only that, but it seems as if the women of this council are more savvy than the men. What's your whole take on Lady Tyrell pulling Dany aside and saying, hey, she needs to go away from the men in her life, the Tyrions of the world, and be her own dragon? Will this cause a rift in this already short fellowship?
I think this is a question that Dany is faced with several times in Game of Thrones. It's mercy versus, a ruthless hand. And you can see the arguments in both ways. I mean, Tyrion's plan is merciful, but it requires patience and it requires everything to go right. It's complicated, it's sophisticated. The plan that you're getting from Olenna is far more blunt, far more forceful. But I like seeing this dichotomy that she's got to deal with. As Tyrion says, you're not here to be the Queen of Ashes. But how do you reconcile that with the fact that she is, the mother of dragons, and dragons by definition, they burn shit up?
I also took from that the conversation they had. She's telling her, don't forget your roots. She's not trying to sway her or pull her away from Tyrion. She's saying, don't forget what you are at your core. You can listen to these men, but in the end, go with what you decide and to remain strong. So I don't think she's asking her to betray her character or betray Tyrion's advice. Just don't forget who you are. And a lot of times people forget.
So some key things we took away from this Dragonstone scene. One is that we now know that the Sands and the Tyrells are allies to Dany. So that's been arranged, and that's a key point to take away. Another one that was key to take away is that while the Westerosi forces are going to be laying siege to King's Landing, the Unsullied will be taking Casterly Rock, which is, not to glance over the fact that this is Tyrion's home. This is him turning on his family. He is pledging allegiance completely away from, if you thought that he was going to have any mercy or any care for the Lannister name or for Jaime and Cersei, I think that here you see that he is fully on board and willing to attack his own home.
And I think it makes complete sense. It is the surprise attack that no one would expect. Cersei is expecting a full frontal attack. Everyone's saying attack King's Landing. So it's nice to see that she's going to go another way, and I think it'll be very effective.
Well, you're starting to see, I mean, there are a couple rifts there, and it doesn't seem as if Jaime is completely on board with what Cersei has to do either. So could it come down where Tyrion maybe spares Jaime, but not Cersei?
Oh, I don't think Jaime or Cersei will even be at Casterly Rock when this happens. No one's going to see it coming. They're marshaling their forces to fight from King's Landing, not knowing that their own home will be taken away from them. And this also isn't something that's going to take a long time to develop. You can see that they want to move fast, and they're not going to be launching their attack from Dragonstone either. Tyrion says we won't be in Dragonstone long. It's not. They plan to move very, very quickly. It's going to be an aggressive campaign. I think that it's going to be well underway early into the season.
I think this is also the first time we've ever seen diplomatic Cersei and diplomatic Jaime. They've never had to actually negotiate terms or loyalty with anyone before. It's normally dictating terms. To have to stand there and use fear-mongering. I think Jaime says, do you want to have these foreign savages and eunuchs on our soil, raping and pillaging? They're begging for support. And it's the first time we've seen them feel vulnerable and actually display it in front of those who they usually command with an iron fist.
So talking about vulnerability, what did you guys think about that scene with Jorah and Samwell at the Citadel?
I really liked that scene until they got to they did a repeat of Poop and Porridge, where they're like cutting through the grayscale, and then they went to like the pudding. I thought that was a little childish, but other than that, I thought it was a great scene to watch. I mean, they shot it beautifully with the excruciating bit that they had to go through, and Sam, true to character, being a sweetheart, trying to like, shh, I'm just gonna basically flay you, but just try to be quiet, okay, please.
But it makes logical sense. You would ask, why would Sam risk it? But he puts the pieces together when he finds out what his name is and how important he is and that he served under his father. It makes complete sense. When Robb is explaining to the Bannerman of the North that he should go meet a Lannister, and he says, I've met him. He was on the road to when I was going to join the Night's Watch. He signs it in a way that Jon would know that it is him. They're answering all the questions in such a streamlined way that I think is beautifully done and makes logical sense.
So in order to cure grayscale, you first have to flay it completely off, then insert dragonglass? Is that how it happens?
It seems like from what Samuel said is he's got to remove all the infected tissue, and then he's got to spread sort of an ointment made with the dragonglass onto the where the tissue was. So that whole back area of the chest, it's going to be a long and excruciating experience for Jorah.
So it's like spending my spring breaks as a child at Daytona Beach without sunscreen on, combined with aloe. Finally, we get to Pirates of the Game of Thrones. Right at the end, this was more exciting than Johnny Depp's latest foray in the fifth Pirates film.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned before, Big D, that we saw Jaime and Cersei kind of talking the talk, and we've seen them walk the walk before. Here, it was kind of a reversal where you've seen Euron Greyjoy, talk the talk, but you never saw him in action. And here we get to see him, and it is fearsome. That scene where they kind of drop the hammer onto the ship, and he's right on there, jumps out with the axe. This guy he means business.
Dude, he's the first one out in front, and he completely lives up to the legend. We've always heard that the Greyjoys are masters of the sea. They have it down to a science. From that broadside, ram that they have, and they have some kind of underwater protrusion that actually ruptures the hull of Theon's ship.
Yeah, the only part of it I really didn't dig is that, we saw that Sand Snakes made short work of Bronn and Jaime. I thought it was a little odd that it took two of them, and Euron with an axe can take them both out after a good 4 minutes of fighting other people. It seemed a little much for me.
Yeah, but this is the great thing about Game of Thrones is that you think they may take, not the same type of liberty with another character, or they try and, bring a villain into a hero. But what I love is that they keep the core of the character. And the fact that Theon Greyjoy gives up at the end and dives off the boat, that is a show telling its audience that we understand that you guys get this show, and we're not gonna play a big fuck you by making him a hero at the end, right? Because they built him up as a character over the last 7 seasons to be one that you're not quite sure where he's gonna go, because he's had all this fucking traumatic trauma in his life.
And let's not act like that's an easy thing for HBO to do, because there will be fans, I guarantee you, who are going to be upset about this, who are going to be like, I wanted to see him step up and be the hero. That's, people want to feel good, right? That's not what this show is, though. This is, what happened to Theon does not go away from you, right? That is, he is scarred, and they do a very good job of showing a guy getting, hacked up and another guy getting stabbed, and he's remembering back to everything that happened to him and the potential. But here's the thing, is that another thing the Game of Thrones does is it is very fatalistic. It shows that things happen for a reason. And I really do believe that if he had tried to step up and, fight Euron, not only is he going to get killed, but he's going to get his sister killed too. And this way they both survive. So I'm not saying he did it intentionally, but it's probably the best way to handle the situation is get the fuck out of there.
And now it justifies that, 5 or 6 episodes of Theon being tortured by Ramsay. That seemed like it went on and on and on and on. You needed to watch Theon broken to have it pay off in this moment where he has a chance to, even though the odds are against him, to save his sister, who was the only one who had his back and went to rescue him, and he can't do it. Without us watching him broken, it doesn't pay off now, 2-3 seasons later.
I just wish it would have happened like 5 minutes later, because the Yara and Ilaria thing was going really well. I kind of could have watched a little more of that. That would have been, I mean, if I could trade in any scene in Game of Thrones, just let that happen once.
Well, there was one love scene that we haven't talked about that maybe we will right after this one. But the fact now that Euron has sunk or is now controlling all of the other Greyjoys' ships and men, who will be the gift that he returns back to Cersei?
Oh, it's clearly Ilaria, right? He captures her alive. That the men that were sent below deck were told with they had express commands not to kill her. They're going to deliver her to Cersei. Remember, she is responsible for the death of Cersei's daughter. Cersei would like nothing better than to have that revenge. So they're going to deliver Ilaria alive to King's Landing.
And that makes complete sense in the description of next week's episode, that it referenced Cersei returning a gift. And we all assumed it was going to be taking a gift and returning it to the sender. It is, but it will be death. They're going to be paying back Ilaria for the poisoning.
And interestingly enough, this explains, again, one of the things that we were talking about is if it was going to be somebody's head, he would just deliver that person's head. If it was going to be an object, he would just deliver the object. He didn't show up. But he needed them to set sail before he could do that. He needed to have them in the right spot. So the timing makes sense. Again, great bit of writing from the Game of Thrones staff in making all these dots connect and not leaving any questions out there as to why.
I talked earlier that I felt it was such an emotionally impactful episode, whether it was the look between Theon and his sister and Euron at that moment. But watching Arya meet up with Hot Pie, and there's that cold, emotionless veneer that she has. When she learns that her brother is still alive and he's now back in Winterfell, and there's a chance that her family still exists, that scene, I got goosebumps, like seeing her realize that she can connect with her former life and she doesn't have to lead the existence of the Faceless Men and continue going around without ties to anyone.
But of course, right on the tail end of that, Game of Thrones loving to break our hearts and twist that knife, Jon leaves before she can make it to Winterfell, so she's not going to see him. We see the clue that she's going to Winterfell by the snow and the cold and the run-in with the direwolves. But Jon leaves Winterfell to Sansa. You see Littlefinger kind of smirking with joy at this opportunity, and I think that a lot of people might have cheered for Jon Snow for choking Littlefinger and telling him to stay away from his sister. But I think that Jon actually, again, being a dope, made a mistake there. He showed Littlefinger exactly how to get under his skin, exactly how to make him lose his cool. He showed a weakness there.
Yeah, completely dumb. You're leaving, and you're going to piss off someone who is completely untrustworthy, who has a thing for your sister, who's now in charge, and he's a master manipulator. Dumb timing. I can understand Jon got upset, but you don't do it when you're about to leave.
The thrones giveth, and the thrones taketh. One of the scenes that the Thrones did giveth is the Grey Worm and Missandei love scene. Gene, you've been a critic of the show in the past for having senseless nudity. Was this one of those moments, or did you feel like this added to the story?
Oh my God, I love the fact that they lingered on this. I love the fact that they gave it time to play out. That they let us see the shame that he feels about his body, this figure that is monolithic, that is unshakable, that is the Unsullied, and a warrior without fear, and he has body shame. I mean, and the comfort that she brings him, but the fact that they lingered on, I could see people. I watched in a room with like 6 other people. I could see people uncomfortable with what was going on screen, but I felt this did redeem Game of Thrones for pointless nudity in previous seasons. I also thought that that her reaction to him was so beautiful, and again, they kept it true to the character. The way that Grey Worm says "I love you" is "you are my weakness." That's what it translates to him. Now I have fear. It was absolutely beautiful. It was heartbreaking, and just again, I really hope that these two characters, they give us a lot to care about, and I hope they do well.
Yeah, spoiler alert, that's also how I act every time I'm in front of a girl and have to take my shirt off. So, a little background there.
A little performance anxiety.
a lot of performance anxiety, but I try hard.
So I was watching with my girlfriend's dad, and he's sitting right next to me on the couch, and he straight up goes, "Guess now we're going to see his Grey Worm." And I was just like, "Oh, this is so awkward right now."
So those are just some of the topics, plus much more that we'll be talking about in our deep dive on Tuesday. Guys, is there anything we've left out from the Instacast that you want to talk about before we get ready for our second watches and let the audience start sending in their emails?
Great episode. I can't wait to watch it again. I might do it right after we post this Instacast.
I will let you know that the Game of Thrones experience here at San Diego Comic-Con this year, you had to get in line on Friday to be able to make it in on Sunday. So I apologize for not braving that line.
Did they started doing TV stuff at Comic-Con?
That's right. It's no longer just comics.
That's crazy, dude. Maybe I'll go next year. That sounds fun.
It was everything you told. But hey, my good buddy who I was here with, his documentary, the documentary about him, it won the Best Documentary Award at San Diego Comic-Con. So if I could give a plug for him, his wrestler name is QT Marshall, but it's spelled like Marshall, and that's the whole gimmick. But look for it. It's The Wrestler, a QT Marshall story. Just Google it. It'll take you to the links. Share it with a friend. It really is a great movie. It really is a fantastic movie. So thanks to Mike and everyone over there, all the producers of the movie.
Also, big thanks to Raj for representing on the throne on the Game of Thrones pub crawl.
I think we made it to 3 bars, and then we were like, no one's doing this. Let's just leave. But we kept taking pictures. You tried to get points for characters, but the characters had to be on the bar crawl. They had to be part. And we were like, look at this fucking 1-1. He's an amazing 1-1. Follow me at Roger_Roper. You can see all my photos. So anyway, well, that does it for this Instacast version of On the Throne, Game of Thrones podcast by Shout on TV. Be sure to subscribe and share with a friend. That really helps the podcast grow. You can also follow us on social media. Our handle is at Shout on TV. Our website is shoutontv.com. You can email us your thoughts, opinions, and predictions at hosts@shoutontv.com. The best emails of the week are read and responded on Thursdays and then posted on our website. Also, if you're a fan of the podcast, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shout the Movies, where we watch 80s and 90s movies that you vote on. And on behalf of my co-host, Big D, and Gene Jormont Lyons, I'm Roger Roper from San Diego Comic-Con saying good night. Be sure to join us on our deep dive, and be sure to knock twice before joining us on the throne.